Zohar Tetze, The Weight of Words, the sin of defamation and its consequences in Jewish thought. In Jewish thought, defamation is far more than a mere social faux pas. It's an act with deep spiritual and communal consequences. The faithful shepherd, interpreting the Torah's warnings in יקע-פעננער, underscores the grave impact of bringing forth an evil name, specifically in the context of slandering a woman's reputation. Here, the prescribed penalty isn't just punitive, but restorative. It seeks to heal both the individual's honor and the community's moral fabric. This sensitivity draws on profound metaphors. The slander of the spies against the land of Israel is likened to the defamation of the sacred feminine, both vulnerable and central to communal integrity. Through such parallels, the faithful shepherd elevates the sin of defamation, warning that words can desecrate what it is most holy. Figures like Esther, who overcame slander to embody divine presence, illustrate the complex interplay between reputation and intrinsic worth. Her story urges us to resist superficial judgments and look deeper. Jewish ethics, especially the laws of Lashon Hara, enshrine truthfulness and respect as communal imperatives. The faithful shepherd challenges us not to settle for superficial readings of Torah, but to cultivate compassion, responsibility, and awareness in speech. Ultimately, his teachings remind us the integrity of our community is woven from the words we choose. Righteous speech is thus not just personal virtue, but a cornerstone of a just and compassionate society. The symbolism of royal modes of transport in Kabbalistic thought. A deeper exploration in Kabbalistic philosophy, the Torah is far more than a sacred text. It is a map of profound spiritual realities. One striking metaphor, it is not the custom of the king and the matron to ride a donkey, illuminates the contrast between the mundane and the transcendent within the spiritual journey. Here, riding a donkey symbolizes engagement with the Torah's literal, accessible teachings, a foundational step akin to the tree of knowledge. Yet true spiritual elevation comes with the pursuit of deeper mystical insights, embodied by the imagery of riding horses as referenced in Habakkuk 3 verse 8. Royalty within the Torah, be it the king, the matron, or Esther, represents divinity actualized, calling us to move beyond simplicity and aspire toward connection with the divine mysteries. Metatron's humility as the servant riding a donkey reminds us of the value inherent in every soul, regardless of their spiritual station. Messiah's humble entry upon an ass further underscores humility as a prerequisite for redemption. Ultimately, the choice of transport is a powerful metaphor. Are we content with surface understanding, or do we strive for spiritual elevation, authentic connection? The path from donkey to horse reflects our journey from the literal to the mystical, from humility to kingship. In this ascent, we reclaim our divine heritage, embracing the call to embody wisdom, humility, and light in all aspects of life. The mystery of Esther, unveiling the divine feminine in Jewish thought. The narrative of Esther, central to Jewish tradition, transcends its dramatic tale of survival to reveal profound spiritual mysteries. Rooted in the Hebrew word sitter, Esther's very name signals her role as a vessel of the hidden, the divine feminine presence, or Shekinah. Jewish mysticism teaches that the Shekinah embodies nurturing protection, enveloping Esther and orchestrating events from behind the scenes. The Megillah's allusions, "You are my hiding place," illustrate Esther's unique sanctity and the divine shelter she receives, echoing the spiritual protection of matriarchs like Sarah. Through allegory, the text suggests that hiddenness is not merely concealment, but a powerful form of divine guidance and discernment in a world rife with deception. Mordechai, Esther's guardian, exemplifies wisdom and spiritual clarity. His depth of knowledge, both practical and mystical, enables him to navigate a perilous political landscape. The sages note the importance of communication and mutual understanding, especially in sacred relationships, mirroring the relationship between humanity and the divine. The story also warns of the grave spiritual consequences of disrespecting the Shekinah, reinforcing the deep reverence required when engaging with the sacred feminine. Just as Esther's being is protected from all impurity, so too must we approach spiritual mist with humility and awareness. Esther's tale, layered with hidden meanings, serves as a timeless invitation to honor the divine feminine, seek wisdom, and engage with life's mysteries with reverence. In doing so, we deepen both our spiritual journeys and communal bonds. The dichotomy of good and evil, reflections on righteousness and the condition of the soul. In the teachings of the Mishnah, the interplay between good and evil is a profound lens for examining righteousness and the condition of the soul. The sages' discussions, such as the permissibility of a raped wife staying with her husband, reveal layered ethical and spiritual dynamics, grounded in the metaphors of the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. These metaphors underscore distinctions between inherent virtue and struggle with moral duality. The tree of life symbolizes unassailable righteousness, as expressed in Mishlei, "No evil shall happen to the just." The narrative of Sarah in Pharaoh's palace exemplifies how divine protection accompanies true virtue. Yet the Mishnah acknowledges that even the righteous may suffer, reflecting the world's inherent imperfection and the ever-present tension within the soul, where even the just are not immune to tribulation or error. Conversely, the evil who prosper illustrate that spiritual corruption is not always met with immediate consequence, for control by the evil inclination suggests enslavement to base desires rather than authentic fulfillment. The Mishnah's assertion that whoever is stronger receives the name highlights self-mastery as the cornerstone of moral identity. Ultimately, the broken tablets of Sinai symbolize both human fallibility and the resilience to seek renewal. These teachings compel us to strive for righteousness, understanding that personal struggle and ethical effort contribute to the evolving story of humanity's quest for meaning and holiness in an imperfect world. The significance of Malchut in Jewish mysticism. Reflections on Elijah's teachings in Kabbalistic thought. Malchut, the bride, embodies both divine immanence and the manifestation of God's sovereignty in the world. Elijah's teachings highlight how Malchut's nurturing rests with Abraham, whose acts of loving kindness established the spiritual framework for the Jewish people. Abraham's dedication, referred to as that of the faithful shepherd, symbolizes raising Malchut with moral virtues and serves as a model for integrating divine kindness into daily life. Malchut's blessing is intertwined with human conduct. Abraham's benevolence draws divine favor and channels blessings to his descendants. Through the mystical lens, the 13 attributes of mercy drawn into Malchut empower the Jewish people to transcend adversity, as seen in the Exodus and echoed in future redemptions. Jewish law and tradition deepen this relationship, as Halacha, linked to Malchut, weaves together the divine attributes of mercy and discipline, reflecting the dynamic balance within Israel's spiritual journey. The trials and resilience of the Jewish people, both historical and messianic, underscore the enduring connection between divine presence and communal responsibility. Elijah's insights present Malchut as a living bond between God and Israel, urging each generation to embody the values of faith, kindness, and justice. By nurturing this covenant, the Jewish people foster a completeness, a full cup of blessing, and ensure that faith and ethical action remain central to their eternal legacy. The allegorical interpretation of souls in the mysteries of the Torah Jewish mysticism unveils the Torah as not only a legal or historical text, but as a layered tapestry of spiritual allegory. Central to these mysteries is the profound portrayal of the soul's journey through figures like the matron, the handmaid, and the common maid, each reflecting varying states of spiritual consciousness and divine closeness. The matron, rooted in Malchut of Atzilut, embodies the purest connection of the soul to the divine, an innate spark through which greatness and enlightenment are possible. The handmaid, associated with the world of Bria, illustrates the soul's struggle, growth, refinement, and transformation amid life's adversities. The common maid from Asia brings the spiritual into the realm of action and material existence, subject to earthly desires and distractions. This allegory extends to the concept of reincarnation, the soul's relentless pursuit of redemption, symbolized by the dove found no rest for the sole of her foot. Tempted by the evil inclination, the soul's journey is one of moral navigation, responsibility, and continuous return to the divine. Through repentance and ethical living, even the most distant souls are promised transformation and elevation, moving from shadow to light. Ultimately, the allegory teaches that by engaging deeply with Torah wisdom and ethical action, we uplift both soul and world, reconnecting with our divine purpose and the source. In doing so, the mysteries of the Torah inspire a life of transcendence, self-awareness, and unity. The Shekinah and the cosmic balance of forces in Kabbalistic thought, divine presence, redemption, and the mystical thread of joy Jewish mysticism offer a vision of existence interwoven with spiritual dynamics, unseen forces, and subtle energies. Central to this vision is the Shekinah, the feminine, immanent presence of the divine, whose role, together with the multitude of spiritual beings that populate the unseen realms, orchestrates a cosmic symphony of balance, conflict, and ultimate harmony. Exploring the Shekinah's nature and the complexity of the spiritual landscape brings deeper insight not only into the metaphysical dimensions of creation but also into human responsibility, ethical conduct, and the redemptive power of prayer and joy. The Shekinah, divine presence, and cosmic hierarchies. In classical Kabbalistic thought, the Shekinah embodies God's presence dwelling amongst humanity, especially within the world of action and the lives of the Jewish people. She represents the interface where the transcendent divine becomes accessible and nurturing. As Psalms proclaims, His kingdom rules over all, Kabbalah reads this as an assertion of not merely political kingship, but a comprehensive spiritual sovereignty under which even disruptive, adversarial forces remain subordinate. The Kabbalists constructed a multi-layered cosmology, segmenting creation into ordered realms and spiritual worlds. The Shekinah is described as having maids and maidservants, each corresponding to different worlds and tasks. This structure reveals an ordered deployment of spiritual energies, servants who nurture, protect, and perpetuate the flow of divine light into the material world. Not all servants possess the same quality or purpose. Some are close to the Shekinah, reflecting her compassion, while others are more distant echoes of her influence. Notably, not all who serve spiritual ends are alike, and conversely, not all opposing forces, demons, or agents of impurity are monolithic. In fact, the so-called other side harbors a spectrum of entities. Some, once called foreign maidservants, originated within the divine order but were exiled through human misdeeds or distortions in worship. Cosmic balance. The purposeful role of evil central to Kabbalistic worldview is the interplay between forces aligned with the Shekinah and those from the Sitra Achra. This is not a dualism of co-equal powers. Instead, the forces of chaos and impurity merely highlight and enhance the ultimate sovereignty of the Shekinah. Even evil, the poison of death, fits into a cosmic serving as a foil to goodness and as a catalyst for spiritual growth in humanity. This nuanced dynamic is expressed vividly in narratives surrounding Samael, the archetypal adversary, and his female counterpart, forces who, according to Kabbalistic texts, were once close to holiness. Through misguided human actions such as idolatrous worship or misdirected offerings, these beings were elevated to unhealthy prominence, eventually punished and cast down. What emerges is a profound principle. Human intention and action can reshape the cosmic order. Worship and ethical behavior can uplift or degrade, granting even once holy entities powers or roles contrary to their original purpose. History thus becomes a cautionary tale. The flood generation and the builders of Babel exemplify how collective spiritual misdirection results in rupture and divine retribution. Humanity is entrusted with upholding the balance, ensuring that spiritual energies are channeled properly, and that the Shekinah remains manifest and unopposed in the world. Joy, marriage, and the mystical order of relationship, the dynamic interplay of spiritual forces, finds a poignant parallel in the realm of human relationships, most powerfully in the institution of marriage. The Tanaim and Amoraim, sages of the classical rabbinic period, wove together law, ethics, and mysticism, uncovering cosmic echoes in the obligation to rejoice with the bride for a full year after marriage. Far from a mere social convention, this is understood as an enactment of divine order. Drawing on numerological and symbolic elements, the sages equate the year to Malchut and to the 12 stones of Jacob. The 12 maids of the Shekinah become a mystical reflection of the bride's essence, and the groom's joyful commitment serves a cosmic function, reaffirming the bond between heaven and earth, mirroring the union between Shekinah and the Holy One. Blessed be he. Moreover, the emphasis is not on private joy alone, but on shared rejoicing with the bride. This distinction points to a broader lesson. Individual happiness grows true and expansive when it becomes communal, sparking blessings that ripple through family and society. The righteous who participate in such joy amplify its power, triggering flows of divine beneficence. Sinai authority, Torah, and collective responsibility set against the backdrop of Mount Sinai, the eternal symbol for revelation. The role of the community sages is to perpetuate and reinterpret divine wisdom for each new generation. The Tanaim and Amoraim, in blessing the faithful shepherd, reinforce the idea that leadership involves both receiving and transmitting sacred knowledge. The Sinai experience also establishes the importance of listening and collective engagement with wisdom. The communal nature of Torah study and observance strengthens the social fabric, ensuring that the divine presence Shekinah continues to dwell among the people. Ethics, charity, and social justice. The mystical teachings do not remain aloof from practical reality. The call to pay wages on time and the imperative of charity are not abstract virtues but direct spiritual obligations. The faithful shepherd's exhortation to just remuneration brings the spiritual into the economic realm, anchoring the Shekinah's presence in the daily conduct of business and care for the vulnerable. Prayer, exile, and redemption. The trajectory of Jewish prayer, especially the Amidah, is understood as a journey through stages of servitude, gratitude, and departure. Moses is portrayed not simply as a historical leader, but as an eternal mediator, without whom even the Messiahs cannot redeem Israel. The structure of prayer mirrors this dynamic, opening with praise, proceeding to request and reception of divine wages, and concluding with departure, carrying newfound spiritual blessing into the world. In this view, prayer is far from a mechanical ritual. It is a vessel for the Shekinah's return, both for the individual in exile and for the community as a whole. The poor in this context is not merely the materially lacking, but any soul distanced from its spiritual home, longing through prayer to return to divine proximity. The central pillar serves as conduit and intermediary, embodying moments of both connection and estrangement. When the Shekinah is in exile, often parallel to the experience of the Jewish people in displacement or spiritual alienation, prayer and sincere penitence become vehicles for reuniting the divine and restoring cosmic harmony. The two yeshivot, sacred collaboration and messengers. The Kabbalists describe two great yeshivot, the supernal yeshiva of the Holy One and the lower yeshiva of Metatron, the celestial messenger. The faithful shepherd, again Moses, serves as the redemptive bridge, uniting the 600,000 soul roots of Israel and enabling the Shekinah's restoration. The cooperation between Moses, the two messiahs, and Metatron signals a theology of partnership in redemption where divine aid and human endeavor synergize. This narrative highlights the role of will, intention, and moral agency. In the biblical story of Abraham's servant seeking a bride for Isaac, success is not predetermined by divine fiat alone, but depends on human willingness and trust. Similarly, wisdom channels the divine through loving kindness, forming the spiritual infrastructure on which the Shekinah depends in exile. Conclusion: seeking connection and fulfilling the divine plan. Through these intricate teachings, Jewish mysticism sets forth a powerful vision. Every action, intention, and moment of spiritual striving reverberates through the cosmic order. The Shekinah's presence, delicate yet resilient, calls for vigilance in conduct and purity of heart. Evil is not an independent adversary, but a shadow cast by human distortion. Its presence can deepen our appreciation for goodness, prompt growth, and inspire the yearning for return. Marriage, charity, and prayer become not mere duties but cosmic opportunities, chances to draw down divine light, restore brokenness, and magnify joy. The stories of Sinai, the laws of wages and charity, and the dynamics of prayer all interlock, underscoring the message that human life participates in a drama larger than itself. The sage's words ring out in every generation. More to be desired are they than gold, even much fine gold, sweeter also than honey and the honeycomb. By cherishing this wisdom and seeking to align our actions with the cosmic symphony, we honor the Shekinah and help shape a world, both physical and spiritual, graced by divine presence, justice, and joy. May our pursuit of wisdom, ethical living, shared rejoicing, and sincere prayer draw the Shekinah ever closer, sweeten our days, and hasten redemption for all creation. The significance of patience in the process of redemption. Mystical reflections on waiting, exile, and divine presence. In a fast-paced era defined by immediacy and instant gratification, the idea of waiting, of cultivating patience, often feels foreign and unwelcome. Yet, in the rich traditions of Jewish thought, particularly within the prophetic and mystical literature, patience emerges not as passivity but as a critical spiritual virtue. Nowhere is this more powerfully expressed than in the words of the prophet Habakkuk. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, though it may tarry, wait for it will surely come, it will not delay. This clarion call to wait, to trust, and to hold fast to hope, even when redemption seems distant, is a message that reverberates throughout Jewish history, resonating urgently for the spiritual seeker today. The virtue of waiting. Patience as an active practice. Modernity prizes answers, quick fixes, and visible progress. In such a world, the command to wait for the vision is countercultural, even daunting. But biblical tradition views patience not as resignation, but as an opportunity for growth, self-examination, and the cultivation of resilience and hope. In waiting, we come face to face with uncertainty and longing. We are asked to hold faith that the arc of redemption, though hidden, is nonetheless unfolding. This waiting, as Habakkuk explains, is not in vain or without purpose. Rather, it is a crucible in which our deepest yearnings are refined and elevated. The interim, the time between promise and fulfillment, becomes a sacred space for transformation. It is here, in the seeming silence, that we develop the capacity to trust in a vision larger than ourselves. Knowledge, boundaries, and humility alongside patience. Jewish wisdom urges humility in the quest for knowledge, particularly spiritual knowledge. The cautionary saying, "Whoever pierces that rock without permission, a serpent will come to bite him," vividly warns against forcing one's way into secrets not yet ready to be revealed. In the realm of Torah and mysticism, knowledge is not merely the accumulation of facts. It is approached with reverence, recognizing boundaries and the mystery of the divine order. This humility tempers curiosity with respect. It teaches us to seek wisdom through the guidance of teachers and the traditions that have safeguarded spiritual truths for generations. Overreaching, seeking shortcuts to enlightenment or redemption, carries its own dangers, distortion, arrogance, and spiritual harm. Authentic knowledge unfolds in its time just as redemption does. Conclusion. Embracing the redemptive journey, the core message of Habakkuk 2:3 thus invites us into a deeper engagement with the complexities of waiting, striving, and seeking. The call to wait for the vision is more than a plea for patience. It is a summons to embrace the journey itself, with all its tests and mysteries. Our moments of disorientation, yearning, and unresolved questions are not aberrations. They are integral to the process of redemption. If we can carry patience, humility, and commitment along the way, we discover that the very act of waiting transforms us into more resilient, wise, and hopeful souls, ready to receive the light of redemption as it dawns. The abyss of exile, fourth Klippa, Joseph, and the Leviathan Jewish mystical tradition offers profound metaphors to illuminate the obstacles blocking enlightenment and redemption. Central among these is the concept of the klippot, spiritual shells or husks that obscure divine light. The fourth Klippa is described in particularly harrowing terms, a pit, an abyss of spiritual and moral desolation. The pit with no water, Joseph and the fourth Klippa. The biblical story of Joseph, cast by his brothers into a pit, provides an archetype for the fourth Klippa. The pit is described as empty, there was no water in it. Water in rabbinic thought symbolizes Torah. The absence of water signifies a world spiritually bereft, disconnected from its source of life. Joseph's betrayal and abandonment in the pit becomes symbolic of a generation's exile, a deep descent into a state of alienation, ignorance, and moral confusion. The pit itself is inhabited by snakes and scorpions, representing the dangers posed by those who twist wisdom for selfish ends, leading others astray. In Kabbalistic language, this is the abyss of exile, where the adversaries have become the chief, and the righteous are overshadowed by the forces of corruption. The poverty of knowledge and the descent of the faithful shepherd in the exile of the fourth Klippa, humanity experiences not just material deprivation, but an even deeper spiritual poverty, a hunger not for bread, nor a thirst for water, but for hearing the words of God. The faithful shepherd, Moses in Zoharic symbolism, must descend into this abyss to uplift and redeem. Leviathan, guardian of Torah's depths. The mysteries of the abyss are further explored through the mythic figure of the Leviathan, the master of all fish in the sea of the Torah. Leviathan represents the deepest, most secret aspects of spiritual wisdom, only accessible to those prepared for true self-sacrifice. Rav Hamnuna Saba famously declares that Moses is the Leviathan of the sea of the Torah, illuminating the requirement for a Moses-like readiness to devote oneself, even unto death, for the maintenance and transmission of Torah. Leviathan thus becomes an emblem of those who can navigate the treacherous depths of the fourth Klippa, preserving divine wisdom through dedication and humility. The numerical value of C and key elements of Jewish prayer point to the 50 gates of understanding, a level beyond ordinary experience where true connection to divinity is found. In this cosmic drama, the Leviathan's mastery points the way to transcendence, signaling that even in the greatest darkness, the light of Torah and the promise of return are preserved. The cry of the betrothed maiden, Shechina in exile and redemption. Kabbalistic tradition gives poignant expression to the cosmic consequences of exile, not merely as a historical dislocation, but as a spiritual rift affecting the relationship between the divine presence and Israel. The phrase, "and the betrothed maiden cried out, but there was none to save her," reverberates through mystical literature as a symbol of longing, vulnerability, and hope. Shechina and Malchut in exile. The Shechina, embodied in the Sapphira of Malchut, represents the interface of divinity with creation. Her exile is both a cosmic and a communal tragedy. She mourns the absence of her children, Israel, who wander, spiritually bereft, in a world dominated by confusion and pain. The severed bond is likened to a beloved bride awaiting her absent groom. This state is marked by suffering, a longing for repair and reunion. The shattering of the first tablets by Moses further symbolizes this rupture, an explosion of chaos and disorder, amplifying the Shechina's lament as anger, wrath, and destruction gain foothold. The mixed multitude and the enduring bond exile is complicated by the presence of the Erev Rav, the mixed multitude of those attached to the community without fully embracing its spiritual mission. While their influence can cloud and obstruct redemption, Kabbalistic teaching stresses that their presence cannot sever the underlying connection between the divine and Israel. The bond persists, safeguarded by the covenant and the enduring hope inherent in the Shechina's cry. The coming redemption, joy-restored Jewish liturgy dramatizes this dynamic, commemorating both the pain of exile and the hope of restoration. Each year, the Passover Seder and prayers for redemption echo with the anticipation of reunion, a future where the Shechina rejoins her children like a bridegroom coming forth from his chamber, bringing joy in place of sorrow. The Kabbalistic vision assures that the joy of the Shekinah will be restored through the intervention of the central pillar, Moses, the Messianic Redeemer, who repairs the breach and reunites the divine presence with Israel. This longing and resilience permeate Jewish consciousness, becoming a wellspring of strength throughout centuries of dispersion and adversity. The mystical name Yud-He-Vav-He, divine presence, and the patriarch central to Jewishical thought is the power of divine names, more so than the tetragrammaton Yud-He-Vav-He. Its 4 letters encapsulate the dynamic between potential and realization, will and manifestation, hiddenness and revelation. patriarchs as channels of divine attributes within Kabbalistic frameworks. Each letter of the Tetragrammaton aligns with pivotal spiritual principles. Yud, the point of origin representing divine potential and will, often associated with Chokmah. Hey, the vessel and capacity for growth linked to Bina. Vav, the extension representing connection and the channeling of divine energy, identified with the 6 emotional Sephirot. Final Hey, the full manifestation into the world, connected to Melchut. The patriarchs exemplified these attributes. Abraham embodies Chesed, Isaac represents Gevurah, Jacob harmonizes the two as Tiferet. This triad leads to the Shechina Malchut, who is symbolized by the Hey, the final letter which grounds divine presence in the material world. Shekinah, the king's daughter, and the divine feminine, the Shechina as the king's daughter, suggests her closeness to the source of all, while her identification with Malchut shows that divine energy seeks fulfillment in the creation and elevation of the mundane. Her journey, sometimes veiled in exile, sometimes radiant in redemption, mirrors our own spiritual trajectories as we strive to realize the divine image in which we are fashioned. Embracing the redemptive path, lessons for today. To piece together these mystical and prophetic teachings is to encounter the redemptive journey as an ongoing, evolving process, both historical and personal. Patience protects us from despair, teaching us to trust the unseen movement of redemption. Humility in the pursuit of knowledge safeguards the spirit from arrogance and distortion. The struggle with the Klippot and the powers of spiritual darkness is real, but so too is the sustaining strength of Torah encapsulated in the mystery of the Leviathan. The Shechina's yearning teaches that exile is not absence but longing. Redemption is not escapism but fulfillment of a promised union. The Tetragrammaton structure grounds us in the reality that divinity permeates all levels of being, calling us to unfold the potential of holiness in this world. Our struggles, doubts, and questions are not barriers but bridges in the redemptive process. By embracing patience, remaining humble in our longing for understanding, and dedicating ourselves to the disciplines of study and kindness, we become participants in the larger drama of cosmic return. In a world shadowed by uncertainty and false promises of immediacy, the wisdom of Chavakuk and the mystics beckons us. Trust in the journey. Wait for the vision, though it tarries. Redemption, both communal and personal, is born in the patient heart and the steadfast soul. The cries of exile will indeed give way to the song of return for the Shechina and for us all. The fall of the crown and the divine connection, lamentation, exile, and the Shechina's enduring presence. In the annals of Jewish thought and collective memory, certain images resonate across centuries, encapsulating epochs of glory, loss, and hope. Among them, the anguished cry found in the Book of Lamentations, "The crown has fallen from our head," Icah 4:16, echoes with poignant clarity the spiritual and existential trauma of exile, the sense of rupture from both sovereignty and divine favor. More than a historical lament, this phrase has become emblematic of the struggle to comprehend the depths of absence and the perpetual yearning for reconnection with the divine. The severance of sovereignty, crown and Shechina. In the language of the prophets and the mystics, the crown is never merely a symbol of political authority. Its removal represents a disruption in the very relationship between Israel and its God, dramatizing the Shechina's concealment, the withdrawal of the divine presence from its earthly abode. The visual of a king casting his crown in despair captures the magnitude of the loss. In times of destruction, such as the ruin of the first and second temples, the Jewish people experienced not only a loss of earthly kingdom, but also a profound sense of spiritual abandonment, as if the conduit to the highest realms had been breached. Here, the mystical dimension comes to the fore. In Kabbalistic thought, the Shechina, the indwelling feminine aspect of divinity, often associated with the lowest Sephira Malchut, represents the crown atop the world, linking the infinite to the finite. As the Shechina is described allegorically in Kabbalah as the shift from the unbroken form of the Tetragrammaton to other permutations such as Hey Vav Hey Yud, existential rupture ensues. This descent of the Shechina bespeaks estrangement, a cosmic exile paralleling the historical exile of the people. Like the fallen crown, it serves as a sobering reminder of both the fragility of the human condition and the perennial possibility for spiritual disconnection. Despair and redemption, from the depths to the crown. Yet even in moments of despair, Jewish tradition sows the seeds of redemption. The psalmist's words, "The stone which the builders rejected has become the headstone of the corner," reverberate with hope amidst rejection. The stone, overlooked and disregarded, symbolically represents the Shekinah, the divine feminine presence, often marginalized but ultimately revealed as the linchpin of divine purpose. This transformation contains a dual lesson, that what is cast aside may return as the foundation for renewal, and that hidden within the pain of exile is the potential for elevation and spiritual growth. The Shekinah, bound to the fortunes of the people, reveals herself most vividly in the depths, in the voice of the afflicted, in the resilience of the spirit, and in the capacity to transform suffering into wisdom and connection. The faithful shepherd, Moses, and the hidden waters of wisdom central to this mystical narrative is Moses, venerated as the faithful shepherd, a unique conduit between the human and the divine, entrusted with transmitting both the exoteric and esoteric facets of Torah. The Torah recounts a poignant episode. Moses, instructed to speak to the rock, is meant to draw forth water for the people in the wilderness. Kabbalah interprets this not as mere miracle working, but as a paradigm of accessing inner wisdom, the living water of Torah that nourishes the soul. Moses' distinctive relationship enables him to overcome the klippot that obscure divine wisdom. Where others can only chip at the surface, Moses' connection allows for the unveiling of deeper truths. This act is more than a means of physical sustenance. It is the drawing down of divine revelation, suggesting that true guidance and halacha are rooted in profound communion with the source. Halacha was given to Moses on Sinai becomes not a legalistic mantra but a testament to the transmission of wisdom motivated by humility, intuition, and sensitivity to the divine presence. This interplay between concealment and revelation, between the closed stone and the flowing water, structures the mystical path. For the modern seeker, it invites a reflection. Genuine wisdom and guidance for living cannot be extracted solely through force or external manipulation, but require alignment, patience, and, above all, conscious relationship with the divine. The unceasing quest for wisdom, stones, rivers, and the flowing Torah. The human yearning for wisdom is immortalized in Eov's rhetorical question, "But where shall wisdom be found?" For the Kabbalist, the search leads beyond the outer form, toward the stone embodying both Malchut and the Shekinah. The seven facets of the stone intimate the layered, multifaceted dimensions of divine wisdom. Kabbalistic tradition envisions the Torah as a flowing river, a source of secrets and life-giving insight endlessly streaming from above to below. The engagement with Torah and its mysteries is not a matter of intellectual curiosity alone. It is a transformative pursuit, one which can dissolve spiritual exile and restore the broken channels between humanity and its Creator. The river's ceaseless flow signifies that wisdom, like divine grace, is available in each generation to those who seek it sincerely. The stone, once rejected, now crowned, reminds us that even in moments of greatest darkness, the seeds of understanding, resilience, and connection can germinate. The faithful shepherd and the twin stones, duality, dialogue, and the divine feminine. Within the cryptic utterances of the Zohar and related mystical texts, the figure of Moses, the faithful shepherd, guides us deeper. There is a rock and there is a rock. There is a stone and there is a stone, he asserts, hinting at a fundamental duality. The world is composed of apparent opposites, physical and spiritual exile and redemption, concealment and revelation. The stone of the name of Yud-He Vav-He, which ascends to become a crown, illustrates the capacity of the soul to transcend constraints and attain closeness with the divine. Further, the stone that smote the image from Daniel emerges as a symbol of spiritual revolution, the potential for even the most humble or overlooked elements to catalyze transformation on the grandest scale. The great mountain represents the collective elevation of consciousness, inviting every individual to recognize their own role in the redemption of the world. Moses' own narrative, particularly the episode with the rock, underscores this symbolism. His failure to speak to rather than strike the rock is more than a misstep. According to Kabbalistic readings, it reflects a failure to fully honor and actualize the Shekinah, the feminine aspect of divinity. The consequences, his exclusion from entering the Promised Land, are thus cast as a spiritual exile, paralleling both Israel's exile and the Shekinah's descent. The king's daughter, another image for Malchut, highlights the need for leaders to engage the feminine, nurturing facet of divinity with respect and partnership. Neglecting this relationship leads to estrangement, while honoring it opens the possibility of reconciliation, healing, and ultimate return. Moses and the sages, the continuum of wisdom. The legacy of Moses does not end with his own life. Rather, as the faithful shepherd, he transmits a living, evolving tradition. The sages of Halacha and Kabbalah are likened to those who are watered in secret by his radiance, illustrating the ongoing generational flow of divine wisdom. The transmission is not static but dynamic, nourished by dialogue, humility, and communal seeking. Every generation must undertake its own journey toward uncovering the wisdom concealed within the stone. The teachings of Moses, the interpretations of the sages, and the mystical insights of Kabbalah together form a tapestry in which the seeker is always invited to participate, immersing themselves in the river of Torah, drawing forth new revelations, and ultimately restoring the fallen crown by facilitating the return of Shekinah. Conclusion: toward hope, connection, and the return of the crown. The exploration of the fall of the crown, the Shekinah's exile, and the esoteric teachings surrounding Moses, the faithful shepherd, reveals the spiritual architecture of Jewish suffering and redemption. It is a narrative that traverses despair and hope, alienation, reunion, surface, and depth. In embracing these teachings, we are called not only to remember but to reenact, to become vessels through which divine wisdom and love flow into the world. The journey of the Shekinah, the challenges faced by Moses, and the perpetual search for understanding are mirrored in our own efforts to bridge the mundane and the sacred, to find purpose in adversity, and to elevate even the most broken aspects of ourselves and our world. May we draw inspiration from these symbols and parables, not as distant relics, but as living waters, guiding our own paths toward healing, wholeness, and reconnection with the source of all being. And as we strive to embody the compassion, strength, and unity symbolized by the restored crown, may we merit to witness the Shekinah's return and the dawning of an era defined by wisdom, peace, and the unbroken bond between humanity and the divine.